It is my pleasure today to introduce RIT's president, Dr. David Munson. Like many of your daughters and sons, he too is a freshman at RIT. Dr. Munson became RIT's 10th president on July 1st. Electrical engineer, entrepreneur, mathematician, musician, teacher, researcher, collaborator, and I even hear rapper, President Munson is all of the above. President Munson grew up in Iowa, Ohio, and Delaware, where he sang with a folk group, played saxophone in a marching band, played basketball, earned the distinction of becoming an Eagle Scout, and traveled on family camping trips to visit national parks. Some of his fondest childhood memories include reading Popular Science magazine, peering at the rings of Saturn, and building rockets made from cardboard tubes and balsa wood. He went on to earn his BS degree in electrical engineering from the University of Delaware. He earned a master's, an MS, and an MA in electrical engineering from Princeton University, followed by a PhD in electrical engineering, also from Princeton. President Munson has 38 years of experience in higher education. From 1979 to 2003, he was with the University of Illinois, where he was Distinguished Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering. In 2003, he became chair of the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Michigan. In 2006, President Munson was named Dean of Engineering at the University of Michigan, where he served for 10 years. He is a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and he has earned many other awards and honors, including the Benjamin Garver LeMay Medal from the American Society of Engineering Education, which is the highest award for an engineering administrator. President Munson's teaching and research interests are in the area of signal and image processing. His current research is focused on radar imaging and computer tomography. He is co-founder of InstaReckon Incorporated, a startup firm to commercialize fast algorithms for image formation and computer tomography. He is also affiliated with the Infinity Project, where he is co-author of a textbook on the digital world, which has been used in hundreds of high schools nationwide to introduce students to engineering. President Munson is married to Nancy Munson, a former nurse, an avid runner, and volunteer. The couple has 4 sons and 4 grandchildren. At the end of his presentation, we will have time for your questions regarding RIT and President Munson's vision as we move RIT forward among the preeminent global universities. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, RIT's President, David Munson.
Well, thanks very much, Fareed, for that overly generous introduction. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to RIT's Brick City Homecoming and Family Weekend. It is wonderful to have so many parents, family members, alumni, and friends joining us for this magnificent weekend. The auditorium isn't full here today, but I had dinner last night with 850 of my closest friends, so there are a lot of people here. Let me start by saying that my wife, Nancy, and I are thrilled to be here and to be part of the RIT family. It is an honor and a privilege to begin serving as RIT's 10th president. We are energized by the cutting-edge nature of RIT, including its talented and ambitious students, faculty, staff, and alumni. Just like you, we made the right decision by coming to RIT. Nancy and I were attracted to RIT for many reasons. This gets asked of me often. Why did you come to RIT? What really sold you on RIT? Well, first of all, while RIT is primarily known for its STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and math, it also has a very rich history in the arts, which I happen to be very fond of. This university is truly unique in international higher education. We've been shaping the world for decades now in the space of creativity and innovation. And now RIT is one of the top few universities working at the intersection of technology, the arts, and design. We can leverage these strengths, and we are leveraging these strengths, the core of the university, to continue building important and unique programs in other areas, in all disciplines, including business, the health sciences, and the liberal arts. We believe that we can lead the nation, if not the world, in taking this approach. RIT has a long history of programmatic innovation, a long history of firsts. We're known for the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, NTID. We're known worldwide for our programs in sustainability and imaging science, and the list goes on and on. We're accustomed to being on an upward trajectory, in fact, a steep upward trajectory. That's now part of our DNA, and I dare say that here at this university, if this year looks too much like last year, people will be sorely disappointed because we're supposed to be ascending at all times. I like that attitude, and I'm very comfortable with that. At RIT, also, I feel an eclectic vibe. Not everybody has to be the same. We've got all kinds of different students. In fact, being a little bit quirky is even good. What really matters are the ideas and the passion that people bring, and then how they innovate around those ideas. Before I get too far along on RIT's future, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge some success stories from this past year, thanks to our tremendous students, faculty, and staff. And I won't take credit for any of this because I wasn't here last year, but I do need to report out on it. This past year has been another year of exceptional growth at RIT, both in size and in stature. Our overall enrollment is now the largest in our history, especially when you factor in our students at our overseas campuses in Croatia, Kosovo, Dubai, and China. We're in demand, and we're becoming more and more selective each year. Here are some of the milestones in student recruitment. After a record year for freshman applications this past spring, RIT enrolled a record 19,000 students, placing us amongst the very largest private universities in the nation. Nearly 2,800 freshmen are here with the best academic profile in the university's 188-year history. First-year class credentials include a mean GPA of 92 out of 100, mean SAT score of 1283, a mean ACT score of 29, and we have 73% of the entering class studying in STEM disciplines. This is also the most racially and ethnically diverse first-year class in our history. Fully 17.5% of our students are from minority populations, and here I'm only counting African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans. We aim to create wonderful opportunities for all segments of our society. And so I say, how is that for a bright and dynamic class? Our students continue to compete at the highest levels nationally and internationally. A couple of quick examples. First, I want to comment on a team that I'm very fond of. It's the all-female RIT Hot Wheels Formula Race Car team. Well, their car is an all-electric car. And in the competition in New Hampshire, in the all-electric division, they took home first place. I asked our team, didn't the other teams have guys on them? And they said, oh yeah, they did. And I said, well, do you allow guys on our team? And they said, no, they would want to run everything. And so we've got an all-women's team that is really doing wonderful things. RIT students also became the first from any university to publish a video game on the Xbox One platform. That's actually no surprise. Our game design and development program ranks among the top few in the nation. And coming from the University of Michigan, I discovered that I have joined an absolute athletic powerhouse, which is actually kind of fun. With ample success in the classroom and on the field of play, the RIT athletics program enjoyed tremendous success during this past season, from Liberty League championships to NCAA berths to All-American status and academic All-American plaudits. RIT's 675 student athletes had plenty to celebrate. And one thing I'd like to celebrate is that their overall average GPA of 3.32 is higher than the campus average, so pretty impressive. The quality of student life outside the classroom is also outstanding, with more than 300 student clubs and organizations, a robust intramural and club sports program, and a very active student government headed up by Fareed. RIT students have no trouble being engaged in and out of the classroom, as well as within the greater Rochester community and also around the globe. Let me continue with a few more examples and evidence of RIT's ascent to preeminence. That's something we're working on anyway. Research funding reached a record $58 million this past year. We had a record 722 proposals that were submitted. It was our second best year with the National Science Foundation and our third best year with the National Institutes of Health. We also had a record number of NSF research experiences for undergraduates. This is a program where our faculty write proposals to the National Science Foundation to garner funds to support undergraduates in our research laboratories. We're among the top 5 in the nation in terms of offering those programs. We're also transforming manufacturing, which is very much on the upswing in our nation, partly due to the availability of cheap natural gas. The Golisano Institute for Sustainability was selected by the U.S. Department of Energy to lead its new Reducing Embodied Energy and Decreasing Emissions, or REMADE Institute. This is a national coalition that we're heading of leading universities and companies that will forge new clean energy initiatives deemed critical in keeping U.S. manufacturing competitive. This is an enormous program. The budget for this program is on the order of $150 million. RIT is now involved in 7 such institutes in the Manufacturing USA Federal Initiative. This includes 5 institutes at the so-called Tier 1 level, which places us among the top 10 most involved universities in the nation in manufacturing. And another point is Magic Spell Studios. This is a facility that is currently under construction, and it will be opening next fall. This program is a first-of-its-kind effort in higher education that will link RIT's internationally ranked academic programs with high-tech facilities needed to commercialize computer gaming, film and animation, and digital media projects. A centerpiece of that facility will be a 7,500 square foot soundstage. Employers from small startups to multinational corporations every year just actively seek out our talented students. Just last week, more than 250 employing organizations and nearly 900 recruiters sought out our students and alumni. It was our largest career fair ever, which is a good sign for the economy, but also it indicates the value of an RIT degree. RIT is taking a leading role in an innovative approach to online education, the MicroMasters program of edX. edX is the leading nonprofit online learning destination. We're collaborating with more than 90 global partners there, including some of the world's top universities. We're teaching literally hundreds of thousands of students online. And we're also the designated provider for coursework in the important area of cybersecurity. We've reached another milestone in terms of rankings. We are now among the top 100 national research universities in the U.S., according to U.S. News and World Report. And this is a big deal for the following reason. Until just a year and a half ago, we were ranked only in the regional university category. We were considered a regional university given the small size of our research programs. Our research programs now have grown, and RIT is now ranked with all of the leading universities in the nation. This year was just the second year we were ranked in that category. We're already in the top 100, and we moved up 10 spots from last year, which is a wonderful sign. We were also cited for our internship and co-op programs, Great Schools, Great Prices, and the High School Counselor Top College Picks, where we ranked 39th in the nation for reputation. 39th in the nation is pretty good, considering there are more than 4,000 colleges across the U.S. We celebrated the 10th Imagine RIT Innovation and Creativity Festival, which was the brainchild of our previous president, Bill Dessler. This left a truly inspiring impression on Nancy and me. We observed a sea of students with a strong sense of passion and purpose. We saw that RIT students indeed are creators, but they also know how to put that creativity to use. One thing I like about the Imagine Festival is it's not all about pure technology. You can learn how to make a film, you can learn all kinds of things at that festival. So please save the date in 2018, this upcoming year, and join us on Saturday, April 28th. That is going to be one good time. And to our distinguished alumni who are with us, The true measure of RIT success is not just the graduation of students, but also the continued success of our alums. Our Alumni Association is now 125,000 strong, and these tigers blaze innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurial paths all around the world in all 50 states and 123 countries. Our alumni are a relatively young and up-and-coming pool of talented innovators, entrepreneurs, leaders, and creative artists. And the reason a lot of our alums are so young is because we have grown so rapidly in the last couple of decades. In fact, about 40% of our alums graduated in this century, since 2001. And nearly 20% of our alums, have graduated just since 2011. Amazing. Notable alumni range from CEOs to Pulitzer Prize winners to Academy Award winners in film and animation. Everywhere we have alumni who are creating just amazing success. They are elected officials and leaders in government. They're inventors of gaming platforms and mobile payment options that keep small businesses running. They're entrepreneurs in the world of disaster and data recovery. Alumni are the true representation of the RIT brand. We do not prepare students just for graduation and for their first job. We prepare our alums for a complete life that includes personal and professional growth and success and positive impact on their industries, but also their communities. Our alumni make significant contributions across the globe. Let me quickly tell you about a particularly impressive example of our international reach. RIT has become an educational legacy for 8 members of the Cheetah family from Johannesburg, South Africa. Radha graduated in May with a master's degree in professional studies from the School of Individualized Study. Like her sisters, Asha and Tulsi, before her. Another sibling, Kalpana, earned a master's degree in print media. This all started, though, with her father, Kishore. He received an associate's degree in printing way back in 1974. 3 cousins have also graduated from RIT in the fields of graphics, graphic media, and graphic communications. All 8 work for the same company, Golden Era Group, the Cheetah family-owned business and second largest independent printing and packaging company in South Africa. I'm thinking maybe we should just open a satellite campus over there and have them run it. You know, we have so many. But seriously, what a family. To further demonstrate RIT's commitment to alumni, we are establishing a permanent alumni house on our campus. The new RIT Alumni House will illustrate how significant our alums are to RIT and will celebrate the mutually beneficial relationship that can be built between alumni and the university. We will be breaking ground any day now on this 5,700 square foot home that will be used for professional development, for networking with students, and even weddings and other lifetime milestones. And we're grateful to the more than 1,500 donors who have already contributed to this project to bring it to fruition. Let's now talk just a bit about the future of our university. Is RIT on the cusp of preeminence? Well, from my earlier remarks, you can tell that I think so. Let me share with you some thoughts from my recent inauguration address and strike up a conversation, perhaps, during the Q&A. The path to major success in business and industry now relies more than ever on creativity and innovation. This is a product of the digital age where change is rapid, information is instantly available, and nations and economies are globally interconnected. We live in one world, and across the planet we share both problems and opportunities. Issues that come to mind are poverty, nuclear nonproliferation, global warming, sufficient clean water, renewable energy, and affordable health care. I note that although technology can help in solving these problems, much of the solution, maybe even most of the solution, will not be technical. In many cases, we already have the technology, or at least much of what we need, but we may not have the political and social answers, or the leadership and willpower. Of course, new technology often brings new challenges. Think about the future when it will be possible to have your genes edited to make a better you? In what cases will this be ethical? What might be the societal risks? With progress in artificial intelligence and robotics, how long will it be before we humans are routinely interacting with machines in very complex tasks? Will we humans always be in control? What kind of education should our students receive in order to help answer some of these types of questions and thereby contribute to guiding the future of society? Clearly, we need strengths in science and technology, but we must go beyond the purely technical. According to a World Economic Forum report released in January 2016, by year 2020, about a third of employment skills that were considered important in 2016's workforce will have changed. The Forum report says the top 3 skills for 2020 are complex problem solving, critical thinking, and yes, creativity. The Forum also highlights collaboration, emotional intelligence, judgment, service orientation, and cognitive flexibility. What does this mean for a student here at RIT? As a starting point, I think each student should choose a discipline for which they have a passion. And then, no matter which discipline is selected, the student should learn about and gain experience in critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, innovation, collaboration, communication, and other high-level skills. This calls for experiential learning writ large. It includes co-op, internships and summer jobs, but also international experiences, participation in student groups and societies, service initiatives, involvement in entrepreneurship and startup companies, research, and participation on project teams. Now, not every student will have time to do all those things, but most of our students will have time to do many of those things. So let's double down on making our campus a thriving ecosystem to stimulate creativity and innovation, which is the translation of an idea into a product, a service, or a process that has either economic or social value. Every student can be involved in creating things that never before existed, and then putting those concepts into action in an effort to improve the world. And that's a true statement no matter what that student is studying. Finally, we have a very busy weekend planned for you. Enjoy yourselves at some of our signature events, including Trevor Noah, who is host of Comedy Central's The Daily Show. That show begins at 1 p.m., so early this afternoon, in our Gordon Fieldhouse. And then returning this year are the popular Classes Without Quizzes series. Boy, our students wish we had those. So we have 18 classes to check out in that realm, and one is really pretty intriguing to me. This is a featured class hosted by the Honorable Robert L. Wilkins. He's an RIT parent and is on the U.S. Court of Appeals, where he is a justice. He's going to be talking about his recent book, Long Road to Hard Truth, the 100-year mission to create the National Museum of African History and Culture. And that was a project that just took years and years and years to develop, and he has a lot to say about that. And then for those of you who are hockey fans, and I'm a hockey fan, you can head over to the Gene Policini Center, also at 1 p.m., to catch our women's hockey team playing versus Rensselaer. And tonight, our men's hockey team faces off downtown versus Northeastern University in the Blue Cross Arena. There you will see a crowd of about 10,000 loyal Tiger fans. The whole hall will be painted orange. We have a few remaining tickets, so I say let's fill the arena and show them that Tiger spirit. Well, thank you for being part of our RIT family and sharing this special weekend with us. We hope that you will leave here feeling a stronger connection to RIT and to each other. So thanks again, have a great weekend, and go Tigers. So at this time, I would be happy to take questions if people wish to have a Q&A session. Yes, sir. Okay, so the question is, Is it more important that RIT focus on research or co-ops and internships or some of each? The answer is, luckily, we can do it all. And I think we can become more research focused without taking anything away from our educational programs from co-op or anything like that. Now, if you're an individual student saying, how should I spend my time? I do have recommendations there. If you're studying a discipline where you're offered either a really long co-op as an option, maybe a year or even more than a year, or you could take a somewhat shorter co-op and have an international experience, I do the latter. I would mix it up a little bit. But as an institution, we're going to be pressing on all fronts. Let's see, are there other questions? Thank you, yes. Yeah, I can't see too well because I have lights in my eyes.
Excuse me, sir, we can use the microphones, folks, because our interpreters want to be able to hear the questions.
Okay, okay. And now I can see we do have microphones. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
First of all, I'm an alumnus of RIT. I'd like to welcome you again to RIT.
Thank you.
With your impeccable background and resume. We are honored to have you as the president of this institution.
I'm honored to be here.
And we want you to continue success in your life endeavors and also with your family. And also, I just want to make a little comment on the previous president, Dr. Dressler.
Yes.
Because under his foundation and his wife, Ms. Johnson, they made that possible to reach that highest level that we are, that the brand name has expanded nationally and internationally. So I just want to give that testimonial and gratitude for the past president. I'd like to wish you again the very best in your life endeavors in RIT. And I know it's going to be successful with your background, that you're going to make it.
Yeah, thanks very much. And yeah, give some applause to our past presidents. Yeah, so I've been here all of 3 months, so I claim credit for nothing. But I've been privileged to meet with all of the living past presidents, beginning with Rich Rose. And when Rich was president, when he started as president, RIT was an incredibly local university. He told me that every single member of the Board of Trustees was from Rochester. And we love our trustees from Rochester. There's nothing wrong with having trustees from Rochester. But boy, we kind of drew a pretty tight circle around the place. And then after Rich, it was Al Simone, who was just an incredibly popular personality. I got to spend a lot of time with him yesterday evening at the large alumni dinner. And then most recently, Bill Dessler. And Bill and I are already very close friends, as well as my wife, Nancy, and Rebecca. It's a pretty tight-knit group. But those former presidents, along with everybody working with them, have taken RIT to a completely new level. And now the majority of our students, not only do they not come from Rochester, the majority of our students come from outside the state of New York. And we still have many, many students from this region and many students from the state of New York. We always will. But this place is just more diverse than ever. So, yeah, thanks for your comment. Yes?
You jokingly mentioned expansion into South Africa, but
Yeah.
what are your plans, or what do you see for our other international campuses in the future?
Wonderful question. So we're involved in 2 places in Croatia, and then we have a single campus in Kosovo, single campus in Dubai, single campus in Beijing. At the moment, we're not considering any further expansion, but I think it's a good question to ask, what does RIT sort of want to get out of this? Some of these overseas campuses emerged just kind of in an opportunistic way. After the war in the Balkans, this goes back decades, there were countries that needed help and some revitalization, and we have a hospitality hotel management kind of program here, and that was really helpful, especially to the cities in Croatia. But you know, we're running a top-tier university here in Rochester, and presumably we're expecting our students back here to benefit, and I certainly have that viewpoint. So with our international campuses, I want to create great landing spots for as many of our Rochester-based students as possible. I want large numbers going over there to study side by side with international students and learning a different culture and making friends, and also seeing what the U.S. looks like through the eyes of others who are overseas. I also want for some of the top graduates from our overseas campuses to be making the decision to come to RIT in Rochester for graduate study to help us improve the quality of our graduate programs. And then wherever it makes sense, I want for our faculty here on this side of the ocean and our faculty overseas campuses to get involved in joint research together. There may be some opportunities there as well. So those are some of the things I have in mind. And I want to make sure that when we kind of weigh all the pluses and minuses, because there's a lot of effort that goes into establishing these things, that the home-based university back here at RIT in Rochester benefits. I can tell you there are marvelous things happening at those campuses, and I can't wait to get over there. We have all kinds of wonderful stories from students who have graduated and some very successful alums, who are giving back to this place, which is terrific. Here, and then we'll go all the way to the top. Yes?
Just curious what you see as your kind of financial priorities over the next couple of years, because you certainly have probably a lot of tug and pull to finance lots of different things, but kind of what's your view on?
Okay, so financial priorities. Well, I spend a lot of my time, even on the road, fundraising, and so I can partly think about the financial priorities in terms of what am I looking for money for. And the top thing is money to support us bringing in the best people. And it starts with student scholarships. We have what sounds like a large endowment. It's about $750 million. But that's not a very large endowment for a university this size. In fact, actually, it's a very small for a university this size. So I'm concerned about raising money for more scholarships and also money for professorships to both hang on to our best faculty and to recruit top faculty from around the world. So that's one set of priorities. Another set of priorities has to do with facilities. And most of our facilities are pretty good, but there are a number of areas where we're deficient and need a lot of work. Enrollment in our College of Computer and Information Sciences has tripled in the last, 8 years or so. Enrollment in the College of Engineering has skyrocketed, and those facilities, they're bursting at the seams. And at the same time, we're trying to get more involved in research, which requires lab facilities in many cases. Our College of Science is in a building that's one of the older buildings on campus, one of the oldest buildings, and those labs that they have were never meant for high-tech research related to nanoscience and biotech and that sort of thing, and so we've got to do something there. So those are a couple of places where we want to be able to spend some money. And then if I talk about the programmatic side, for our students, what I would really like to do is take our experiential programs to an entirely new level. So that means more students studying overseas, going overseas, but that takes some money because there are plenty of students that can't afford to do that without some help. It means more students on student project teams, and I don't mean senior capstone design projects in the required curriculum. I mean things that are more like the Formula race car, where you start with a blank sheet of paper and you design something from scratch. Or maybe it's a team of students working on developing low-cost technology for some health clinic in a village in Africa, or whatever it might be. But those design experiences, I think, are really important. And another area is entrepreneurship. We do really well in entrepreneurship, but I still want to take that to another level. Now, the reason I mention those kinds of areas in terms of finances is to have top-notch programs. We're going to need to hire some additional staff and get this more organized to really scale it up across the student population and not just have these things available for selected students. Our university is solvent. You know, this is not a poor university by any means. But if you look at our list price tuition, it's actually very low compared to our competitor schools. I think we are a very efficiently run university, and I think we offer our students a lot already, given our revenue. On the other hand, we'd like to always do more. So it's we're going to be looking for money various places. Yeah. All the way at the top.
I have a more mundane question. From what I understand, the food is terrible. Is there anything you can do to improve the meal plans and the quality of the food.
Okay, I'll honestly tell you, you're the first person I've ever heard that from. I've heard from a lot of others that the food is great, and so we have some students in the audience. Would you like to weigh in? Because I don't eat in the dining halls very often.
Personally, eating at the freshman dining hall, Gracie's, compared to other colleges, it's very good, and we have like changing menus every day, and a lot of places don't have that luxury. We can choose from Indian, German, like we can choose from many different cultures of food, and for a dining hall that serves thousands of students, it's very good.
Okay, but somebody else can feel free to disagree. We can take criticism.
No, I actually agree with him that the food quality is good, and I'm a writer student, so I went to a different university before, and I think the food here is better. However, on the weekend, the options are very limited.
Oh, okay. So need more options on the weekend. Yes, sir.
So it's been a few years since I ate at Gracie's, but when I was a freshman, there was definitely a lot of people that only ate there when they absolutely had to.
Okay.
Because either they
And how long ago was this?
I'm a third year, so 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, okay, so this is recent.
And they didn't want to eat there because they either got sick, they didn't think that the food was very good, or they just found better options somewhere else on campus.
And so what were some of the better options?
Like for freshmen, Commons, which is on the other side of the residential side.
Right, okay.
Or when it's open, Crossroads. So I think what those people found was just that those places had higher quality food than what was produced at Gracie's.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, because what I've been told is if I want to go eat student food, go over to Gracie's because it's the best. But what do I know? I don't have a lot of experience. Yes, please.
I feel I would be remiss if I didn't speak on behalf of my daughter, who's horseback riding right now.
Oh, okay.
But she's spoken a lot about struggling with healthy food options, because I guess for some students who struggle with, weight or other things, and really do need to be eating healthy food for one reason or another.
Absolutely.
That can be more limited in selection and not necessarily as good tasting, as some of the other foods that are available.
Okay.
And I did hear that from other
Well,
students
that's
last
something
night.
that maybe we should look at then.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comment. Are there other questions or comments? Yes, please.
You'd mentioned earlier regarding the tuition and staying academically competitive. I'm wondering in the coming few years how you intend to stay academically competitive and not just financially competitive in terms of the tuition commitment we're making over the course of 4 or 5 years.
Well, in terms of academically competitive, a lot of it just has to do with getting the best people, the best students, and the best faculty. And there's a part of that that is tied to finances. If we want to bring in a top faculty member and they're doing research in a pretty expensive area, we may have to equip a lab for them. But a lot of recruiting has to do with being smart about the processes, and we know how to do that. I know how to do that from my prior stop. When I started as Dean of Engineering at Michigan, we were accepting about 65% of the applicants into engineering, and by the time I left, it was down to under 25%. And we had grown enormously during that time period. And so we put other kinds of recruiting practices in place. It didn't take a whole lot of money. It took a lot of clever thinking, a lot of passion and energy. Students had to have just a phenomenal visit. We made sure that happened. We established pipelines into selected high schools where we most wanted those students, and established relationships with the people in those schools. Now, RIT has already done some of this, so I don't want to pretend like I'm, bringing totally new ideas to campus in that space, but there's more we can do there. And the same thing in terms of faculty. Those faculty recruits have to have just an unbelievable experience when they come and visit. We're going to try to make sure that happens. So it's partly about money, but it's not entirely about money. It's partly about enthusiasm and passion. Anyone else? Yes, right here in the front.
So right now, RIT is an R2 institute. Do
Yes.
do you have any plan to whether we will stay R3. So do we have any plan to stay with the R3, or do we want to move upward toward R2 or even R1 research institute?
Okay, so thanks for the question. And let me translate that question. In the U.S., there's a categorization of research universities, R1, the biggest in terms of their research expenditures, then R2, R3. And we're slowly moving up that pecking order. But I don't have any particular plan that we should be R2 or R1 by a particular date. That's really not our goal. Our goal is just over time to be doing more research, hiring faculty members who will be more research-oriented. And what I mean by that is not less on the teaching side, but faculty members who actually have capability to do basic fundamental research. This place was very different. Decades ago, when a faculty member was hired, there wasn't any consideration given to their ability in research. So it's pretty unfair of us to expect all of our very most senior faculty members to all of a sudden start doing research. That's not the reason they came here, and they may have been in degree programs themselves where research really wasn't emphasized. They may not have experience in doing research. But for the last, and this is not new with me, for the last, 15 or 20 years, most of the faculty members we've been hiring do have really excellent research skills. And I should be careful when I use the term research, because in my domain, in engineering and science, it means one thing. In some other fields, it means something else. So in my domain, it means we want our faculty members to be able to hustle for those grants and contracts from the federal government, for the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, NASA, Department of Defense, and the list goes on and on. Bring that money to campus so that we can buy equipment, equip labs, and most important, pay graduate students, graduate research assistants, and to really build sizable programs that have a lot of impact. But in other fields, what I really mean by research is not research necessarily in a conventional sense. If you're in the liberal arts, let's talk about things in a broader sense, scholarly work, which may have to do with writing books or poems or what have you. And in the arts world, it has to do with an artistic impression you make on the outside world. It may have to do with exhibits and performances and that sort of thing. But what I'm telling everyone here at RIT is that I want for all of our faculty, to the best of their ability, to be working on things and highlighting some things to the outside world that reflect well in our university. Because if we do great things here and we never tell anybody about it, keep our light under a bushel basket, that just doesn't bode well for the institution. But I don't have any particular plan in terms of we're going to be at this level by this date or this level by this date. It's just an overall push in a direction. Let's see, is there one last question maybe? Okay, well, let's see, just a second, because you've been able to speak and there's somebody way, way up, literally in the last row. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You recognize the fact that the recent freshman class was the largest you've seen to date, or we've seen here at the university or at the institute.
Yes.
And the overall growth of the size of the institute and a very aging housing selection or availability.
Yeah, in terms of you're talking about the dorms and apartments and what have you.
What are your thoughts and plans about improving the housing for this growing institute?
Yeah, so we're going to have to do some work in that area. And I think RIT is going to keep growing, but not quickly. You know, it might be a couple % a year or something like that. I haven't been in very many of the dorms yet, but the things I've seen, I would say, could stand some upgrade. And in some cases, we may even need some completely new buildings. So that's something we'll be looking at. And I certainly understand that we need good housing for our students, but we also need it more also to attract students, because our students look at what competing universities offer, and we have to at least be somewhere within the realm. So, yeah. Okay, I said that would be the last question, but now it's not the last question.
My question is, you talked about a lot of the demands on the professors. We have a second-year student here, and I was wondering if you could go into detail of how do you on an ongoing basis, ensure that your professors or your instructors are effective in the classroom and really meeting the needs of the students as far as truly getting especially as a freshman, sophomore, the ground level education and competency based on what the course objectives are.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I can say a few things about that. There is a tone that gets set from the top at any university in terms of the importance of instruction and education. And I know where I came from. The tone I set was, I don't care if you're a Nobel Prize winner on the research front. If you're not doing well in the classroom, don't expect a very large salary raise. You know, we want serious effort there. And I don't yet know what exists at RIT, but at my previous stop, we had a complete organization devoted to research and to development of techniques in teaching and pedagogy. And faculty members could go there for help. Faculty members were sometimes referred there for help. And we saw lots of our faculty members benefit from the services that were offered there. In terms of the actual curriculum, that is pretty much under the control of the different departments. You know, I don't really have any sort of direct effect on that, other than sort of the bully pulpit and to be kind of talking things up. And I won't pretend that you know, the quality of every professor or instructor is the same. That's not true. But there will be a continuing emphasis here on quality education and quality instruction. Another thing I should mention is I don't yet know exactly what all we do with in terms of teaching evaluations. I've heard that in some of our classes the student response rates are pretty low, but I'm used to being at places where every single class is evaluated by the students and that we pay a lot of attention to those evaluations. In some cases, maybe some faculty members need to learn to become better instructors. In other cases, it really has to do with faculty members might be really good at teaching certain kinds of courses and certain sizes of courses and not as good at other things. And so we need to deploy our faculty in the smartest ways. Thanks for the question. Okay, I'm going to let this gentleman really ask the last question because he did have a last question and I made him sit back down.
So, just more of a personal question. You've only been here for about 3 months, but you seem to be extremely knowledgeable about RIT and everything. So, like, how have you acquired that knowledge in such a short period of time?
It's kind of a crash course, right? I'll say a few things. First of all, the presidential search process was very thorough. I learned a lot from the search committee and from the people I interacted with at that time. And then there was a period from starting around end of January until July 1st when I started, where, truth be told, I was spending a lot of time on RIT business when I was back at the University of Michigan, having regular phone calls with people here on campus and with Christine Whitman, the chair of the Board of Trustees. So I learned a whole lot before I ever arrived. And then now that I've arrived, I have this fantastic staff to work with. And they make me look a lot better than I really am. They actually, you know, now know how to get things done around here, and so I've learned very quickly from them. But a lot of it is just, you know, listening, communicating, talking to people. And I'm a curious sort of person, and I want to know how things work at RIT because there are a whole lot of things we want to get done, and I'm just so eager to move along. So, thanks for the question. Thanks to everyone for attending, and have a great Saturday.